Hi, social impact and sustainability friends. Welcome to Venture Forward Together. We are Danielle Doza and Victoria Avi of Venture Forward Strategies based in Cleveland, Ohio.
And we're sharing stories of friends and colleagues doing good work in this world. We're reaching out to check in with our friends and see how they are doing during the COVID-19 stay at home and how this pivotal moment is changing their work and could impact the future.
So let's check in on each other first. Victoria, what is energizing you this week?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what's energizing me this week is the orchid. I have this orchid on my desk. It's been blooming since last August, and it hasn't lost its blooms. And it's like a miracle. I'll do a quick look at this.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what's energizing me this week. What about you, Danielle?
What's energizing me is we put this bird feeder in our front yard, and we're getting all of these birds. There's 3 sets of mourning doves, all kinds of starlings, sparrows, and we have this cardinal pair. And I think it's the first time I've really noticed a female cardinal and how beautiful it is, and just this beautiful brown color with this orange beak, and they're always together. And it's just been so fun peeking out and seeing all of these birds in the front yard, and just seeing the life and how much is there. So that's been energizing me this week, and a good spot to just peek out the front door when I need a little break.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely want to ask Jackie, our guest, what's energizing her after I do a brief intro. I've known Jackie, who's a Clevelander, a friend, the founder and CEO of Spirit of Leadership since 2007 or so. I think Holly Harlan, your friend, took all of staff to a retreat at your space, which is in Novelty, Ohio. And that's the first time I met you and Herb and the herd and the dog pack. And since then, we just have been communicating and having a friendship, and that's been amazing. So we're so happy to have you, Jackie. Hoping that you can share a little bit about yourself, about your work, and then share what's energizing you today.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me. It's this whole notion of meeting on Zoom has been really an interesting experiment in really reaching our energy in a way beyond our boundary of what typically happens. So thank you for inviting me to be part of this lovely project. What's energizing me is spring. I'm looking out my window now, and there's these amazing blossoms on the tree, and the bees are happy as can be. The horses are enjoying the green grass. And I think the other thing is very much as you talk about E for S, which also introduced me to biomimicry, and Janine Benyus. And she talks about that spring comes every year, and it doesn't need a strategic plan. Mm-hmm. It emerges out of the wisdom of being present with what is and imagining the best next place to be, and then is there. And so I think I'm very inspired by the transformation of nature.
And tell us more about your work, Jackie. What kind of work do you do?
Well, my work is engaging with nature and people, and to bring people along with me on a journey and to join them on their journey of becoming more of who they are, and to maximize their strengths, to share them with people, to really expand their capacity to be more conscious participants in life, all of life, and to do that by opening our ranch where we live and bringing people onto the land and having them engage with our horses. And I'm learning more and more about this way of coherence, so that who we are on the inside is reflected in our actions, and our actions reflect who we are. And the horses live in absolute coherence all the time, as does nature. And so I think that how do I personally live more coherently, that who I am on the inside, I'm responsible for what I do on the outside, and how can I be part of a collective that also looks at life in that way so that we make better decisions for the well-being of all, especially the most vulnerable, that being our environment right now. Um, and so that's my work. And the horses that live on this land, the herd, have become the coaches, and I've become their disciples. And I just create the space for people and horses to come together and trust the wisdom that happens in that relationship between one coherent being that lives and communicates so directly from the heart and speaks to the heart of the people that come to be in their presence.
Jackie, can you walk us through an experience someone might have who comes to visit the ranch and work with the horses, and kind of give us a sense of what that is?
So, well, this morning, the horses and I were coaching a client in the field, an individual who is this amazingly evolved woman in her middle ages, probably not middle ages, but maybe in her 50s, who's doing remarkable work in the world around getting the message of justice and the stories of courage and the stories of humanity, all the good stories of she helps TV stations and news stations focus on what's working rather than what is wrong. And it's beautiful work, so needed in these days. And she came out to be with the horses to see how she might, in these times when we have slowed down and she's so enjoying it, how she might get motivated to get back out into the world in a different way. And what is her new world going to look like? And what is the new world that we're going to look like? Not so much the world we left behind, but how does she want to create a future that she feels is better than the one we're leaving behind? And so she came out to be with the horses, and she walked through the field. Our horses are at liberty; they're free, so they can choose to come and go. And they've got 20 acres, so if they don't feel like engaging with people, they don't need to. And she stopped to visit each of the horses and walked up to them, and then kind of stepped back. And one of the horses decided to come to her. And it's our lead mare. Her name is Shirley Temple. She's a beautiful Shire horse. She's almost 19 hands, which is a giant horse. She's very, very, very tall. She's 8 feet tall if you measure her from the top of her ears to the ground. So you can imagine looking up at a horse whose head is above your own, coming towards you. And the horse stopped nearby her, and she stopped, and then Shirley came over and gently put her head down and put her nose on this woman's chest right above her heart space, and just gave out a long breath, breathed right onto her heart space, lifted her head, stood there, and then walked away. And I said, "So what do you think happened just then?" And she said, "I think there was something of fear in me that was afraid of what the future might bring and is having a hard time letting go of what I know in the past. And I feel like when Shirley Temple breathed on my heart, it melted my heart and opened a space for me to be more curious about what's coming forward rather than holding tight and being fearful." And she said, "I'm not quite sure, I don't have the answer to that, but I feel like I've got the capacity to listen to within, and that might guide me. If I can listen to my heart, which is opened wider as I let go of the fear, I think my heart will guide me to the future that I'm to participate in."
Wow.
So that's...
Thank you. Hearing that just brought some calm to myself too.
That's beautiful, Jackie. Jackie, I mean, you're so lucky, and I'm sure you're honored to be around the horses all the time that teach you so many different things. And being on such a beautiful land in a natural environment probably already had slowed things down for you and your family. But what is still shifting for you? So in light of current changes, for many of us, these are new changes, right? Slowing ourselves down or breathing or noticing nature. But you've been around that environment for quite some time. But what are you noticing that's new for you? What's shifting for you these days?
I think my daily life is not so different. When you are when you're taking care of animals, you get up in the morning and you've got horse feeding to do, and the last thing at night, so I'm outside. There's fewer people coming to do some of the work, but there's still some people coming because we can be outside and social distancing with the horses. But I think what's really been up for me is that how, even though we're on the same ocean, we're riding in different boats, so not everyone has the ability to slow down and to rest in calm and just be in a place of safety. Not everyone has enough food to eat. Not everyone has the security of shelter. And so I think it's really brought me face to face with the polarity of our country and the divide between how resources are distributed. And so I think that's what's most present for me.
You mentioned uncertainty earlier, and there's so much uncertainty for a lot of people right now in many different ways. How might nature, and being in nature and with animals, how might that help people generally? And how can they approach nature to kind of help them in uncertain times like this?
Well, I think that a lot of it is we don't know if we have a safe place to rest. We don't know where we belong. We don't know where home is. And I think that, when we're standing on the earth in a certain place, no one else, that is our place. There's no one else standing in that place but us. So I think when we bring our energy and our awareness to the support that the earth has for us, it literally is holding us and gives us a place. There is one place that we can just be who we are and know that we have a place to take a stand and be. And no one can take away the air we breathe or our ability to lean against a tree for comfort or find shade. So the resource of nature is abundant, and we don't own it. We are part of it. And so I think if we can, and I think Cleveland is so generous in its park systems and in its greenery, but it only takes one tree outside your door. So I think that if we can help our children learn to love nature and realize that nature is one of the ways they can resource and be supported, that they're never really alone as long as they see themselves as part of the natural world. It's kind of like, we have our human identity, which is, who we are in the human world, but then we have our ecological identity. Who are we within the family of nature? And I think if we draw that family portrait large enough so that kids know that they belong, that they are part of nature, they belong to nature, nature will always be there. The natural world will always be there to comfort them, to hold them, to help them find shade and to find their place, even when the rest of the world might not offer that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So I know, so you shared this with me, and your book is out in the world. You've written this beautiful book where a lot of these lessons are collected and beautifully told through nature's lens and through the horse partners. Is there anything you would like to share from the book that could inspire us, that could kind of keep us afloat and nurtured?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll read just a paragraph, and it's actually the opening paragraph of the book. The title of the book, Someday We'll Live Like Horses, came from a song by Elton John and Pavarotti. And they said, someday we'll live like horses. They sing it, free rein from all your iron fences. There's more ways than one to regain your senses. Break down the stalls and we'll live like horses. And I think that when we take down the fences that live between us and our authentic self and each other, those barriers that keep us from truly seeing one another and being seen, how can we see you seeing me and see me seeing you, so there isn't such a divide? And also that divide, to take that divide away between us and the natural world. So I'll just read one short paragraph. We have one of our resident herd members is a rescue zebra named Holly. So I start with her. A zebra chasing bubbles, a pony drumming, horses helping people heal, leaders listening from within, a herd running free. Just another day at Pebble Ledge Ranch. Opening to the unexpected and to everyday miracles, we can shift our perspective, maybe moving towards a reality far beyond our expectations, maybe even beyond what we think is possible. I believe that all of us have the ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary when we live with authentic presence, which is simply just being who we are. Finding our herd, our communities, following our unique path of purpose, we have the capacity to do remarkable things and live a remarkable life. Walking or galloping together in a common direction, we can make a positive difference in our lives and in the lives of all life.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Jackie, what can leaders learn and leadership learn from nature, from these horses? Leadership in particular, whether it's during a crisis or not during a crisis.
Yeah, I think it is about listening. Many people think about, to be a good leader, you need to know what to say. And in horse world, they talk about horse whisperers as people that can work with horses. But actually what I've learned is that it's the horse that's whispering. And I think one of the most important keys and capacities of leaders is to be able to listen. And listen in a very particular way, maybe listening through their heart, listening through humility, listening through empathy and compassion to their employees, to their stakeholders, to their customers. And I think when we take the time to slow down and truly listen for the best in people, and listen with that much openness of heart, what we will see is the potential of the person in front of us. We won't see. So if I were doing a review of somebody or a supervision, how might I really listen for the potential the person has, listen for what they're doing that's extraordinary, see the light and the divine in the person in front of me. And when I find the person from that place in me, I see that place in them. And then what I have to offer is how I see the next best place you can be, and I really help you get to that place within yourself. And so it's really looking at people's strengths rather than focusing on what might be their challenges only. So it's about how do you help people build on their strengths and be curious to explore challenges from that place of accepting them for who they are. And I think that's what the horses do. They really are great listeners, and that's all they ask of us. But in their presence, we can listen to ourselves better, we can listen to each other better, and maybe even listen to the whispers of nature and the wind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I could listen to you forever, Jackie. Is there anything else before we get to like our kind of standard questions we like to ask everybody, is there anything else you would like to share with the world that's on your heart right now that needs to be shared?
And I also want to add to that, if someone's interested in learning, more about the ranch spirit of leadership or connecting with you, how might they do that?
Yeah, they can do that. Probably the easiest way is through the website. They can Google my name or our website, and you can maybe let people know later what that is. And then,
Yeah, we'll link to it as well.
yeah, so if you link to that, that's probably the best way. And I am happy to talk to anybody, to answer any questions. Just email me, and I generally get back to somebody within 24 hours, sometimes within 5 minutes. If there's an open space, I just call them like that.
Right.
So, yeah. I think what you asked me is, what would be important is to encourage people to share themselves with the world, just what you invited me to do. Be interested in other people, be interested in what their wisdom. And, I think the older I've gotten, the less I know, which is really a blessing. I was Zooming with my granddaughter yesterday, and she had her pajamas on. They're in California, so she's now has learned to take her mom's phone, and she can call me whenever she wants, which is, really wonderful for me. And her parents go, "Oh my God." But I was looking at her pajamas, and the words on her pajamas were kindness, happy, love, and on the back it said, "Be silly, be yourself." So that's what I'd want to share with the world. Kindness, happy, love, be silly, be yourself. From Natalie's pajamas.
That is great.
Wisdom of Natalie's pajamas.
That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Now I want to set like that.
Right.
So these are some of the questions that I would like to ask for really just like the library of resources, because there's so many interesting things out in the world. And so the first question is, what is your favorite sustainability or social impact or nature impact book or resource that you go to a lot?
So you told me you were going to ask me that ahead of time, but I didn't have to think about it. It was immediate. And actually, I wanted to read one paragraph from it, a sentence.
Sure.
So my favorite sustainability book is written by a man named David Abrams. And he's two books that, one is called The Spell of the Sensuous, and the other is called Becoming Animal. And if you go on to David Abrams' author website, he has a lot of information about nature, sustainability, because for him, it's about relationship. If nature isn't in it, and the veil between the human nature and the rest of the natural world is more permeable, and nature is our family, we might respond differently and treat nature differently in a sustainable way, because we see how interconnected that all is. And so that's kind of that. So here it is. So this is a quote from, this one I think is from his book near the front, The Spell of the Sensuous. And he says, owning up to being an animal, a creature of the earth, tuning our animal senses to the sensible terrain, blending our skin with the rain ripple surface of rivers, mingling our ears with the thunder and thrumming of frogs, and our eyes with the molten sky, feeling the polyrhythmic pulse of this place, this wind-swept body of water and stone, this being in whose flesh we are entangled, becoming earth, becoming animal, becoming in this way more fully human. So it may not be your typical sustainability book. It doesn't scold you or demand anything from you or give you 5 principles. It just loves the earth and nature and the poetry and the felt sense. If we get out of our heads, if we only treat sustainability from our head, nothing will change. that in some way we have to engage our heart and engage our soul and engage the place and engage our body. We need to feel the embodied earth within us. And as we walk upon her, that each step truly is a blessing. It's the way the horses walk upon the earth. Each footstep is like a blessing. And actually, the horses have 5 hearts. The heart in their body is 7 times as big as ours. But at the bottom of their hoof, which is very hard so that it protects their feet, is a little soft place that looks like a heart. And as they walk on the ground, that heart pumps blood through their long legs to keep them healthy. And so truly, each step they take on the earth connects them more fully to their life force. And maybe if we let the sole of our foot, both the S-O-L-E and the S-O-U-L-E of our foot, touch the earth with consciousness and awareness and care and connection, then we might walk and have a relationship with nature differently.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Jackie, who inspires you? So, we talked about this great resource. Who has inspired you in your work? And whether it's past, present, we always want to share that for other people to look to as well.
Yeah. Well, certainly the lineage of women in my life, and my mother, who always said, Jackie, life is an imperfect circle. It's shaped like a heart. And she would say to me, I know there's nothing you can't do, and I don't care if you do anything. So I would want to honor my mother as my role model in that way. And I think the other role model are the children. That children are my role models because they're so honest and they're so joyful and they are so generous with their laughter and their love and their sticky fingers. And so I think it's the elders and the children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We certainly think about, sustainability and social impact in the frame of ensuring a flourishing world for future generations. So, yeah.
So the next question we have is, what keeps you going and what energizes you? And I know we kind of asked that question in the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add to that?
I think really for me, if I sit in front of my computer for any length of time, I get really, really tired. But I could walk for hours outside and feel really alive. So for me, the natural world, whether it's one tree, when I'm traveling in a city and I only see one tree, it's like, yes, and go outside, breathing the air. So it's really, the natural world is what energizes me for sure. And people like you, Victoria, who are so positive and so even with the heavy load you carry with the big responsibility of sustainability, you carry that in such a light-hearted, deep-hearted way. And so I find that inspiring. Communities of people like you are very inspiring to me and give me energy. Yeah.
And maybe this is the same answer, but what do you do to restore yourself?
It is nature, but I would say sleep. I've learned in this time, I have never gotten so much sleep as I have gotten. But it's not just going to sleep, it's deep rest. And so sometimes that deep rest is just going out into the pasture among the horses and lying down on the field and just feeling that earth under me. There's something about resting on the earth, which is very regenerative, even different than resting in bed. So there's something about slowing down and deep rest that's important. And it is about sleep, but it also is about that total release of really yielding to gravity and to the gravity of the earth. And there's a way in which, you know, I can lie on the earth and I can feel myself lying on her. And then what I do is I try to shift my awareness and let the earth come up from underneath and hold me from below, and then meet in that place of giving and receiving. And yeah, so.
That's so important.
That is. Well, I just want to mention once again, Someday We'll Live Like Horses is out online. People can buy the book if they're interested. They can come
And
visit.
that's, the picture is Raven. He's one of our inspiring horses who has kind of a devil may care attitude, full of self-confidence, and he's always moving forward. Horses are the oldest living mammal. They've been around 65 million years. And the reason is, one, they live in harmony with themselves, with each other, and certainly with their environment. They work together so that to the extent that the individual is strong, the herd is strong. And when the herd is strong, the individual is strong. And third is they are always moving to the next best place to be. They're so completely present in the moment. You'll never see a horse looking over its shoulder with regret or disappointment. They're always looking for the next best place to be. Green grass, a friend to hang out with, a tree to find shade. So someday we'll live like horses, moving forward in a positive way with a herd, collectively in harmony with our environment.
Jackie, who's this?
That's B. That was our lead mare. We just lost her at the ripe age of 36. She
Wow.
graced us with her presence for many years, and she was my major teacher. She still is. She's teaching from the other side, and I hear her whispering to me, not so quietly often, when I feel like, when she feels my direction is not on course. She will kind of give me a bump from the other side, which is a great way to stay on the path.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Jackie, we feel so honored that we got to talk to you and to hear a glimpse of your daily life and your work. And we'll add all these links in the show notes so anybody who's interested can follow up and hopefully link up with you. And just want to say that I am grateful from the bottom of my heart for you and your family.
Likewise, and thank you for the two of you for the brilliant, beautiful, humble, generous work you do in the world. So important as you lead these times going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been restorative for me, and it's a reminder to take my shoes off and walk outside this week.
There you go. All right.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye, Jackie.
Bye.